All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to decode some of those hidden psychological patterns that, well, they drive the way you think. And I have a feeling you're going to be surprised by how many of these just feel incredibly familiar. So, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like your brain is just wired differently? The way you see the world, the way you connect all these different ideas, it just doesn't quite seem to match up with everyone else. It's almost like you're operating on a totally different frequency, right? Well, here's the thing. Psychology actually suggests that all those little quirks and habits you have, they're not random at all. Nope. They're basically a hidden language, one that reveals your own unique cognitive style. And today, we're going to learn how to speak it. Okay, so first up, let's start by decoding some of these super common, but honestly often really misunderstood thinking patterns. You can kind of think of them as clues, clues to understanding your very own mind.
All right, section 2. We're going to look at a style that gets a bad rap all the time. It's that complex, super curious mind, the one that always gets accused of overthinking.
But see, for this type of thinker, overthinking isn't really about anxiety, not at all. It's more of a natural tendency to see the entire picture. Your brain isn't just processing information one piece at a time, it's connecting everything. It's examining every possible angle, every cause, every effect. You're someone who craves depth, not just the easy surface-level answers. And believe it or not, this actually has a name. In psychology, they call it cognitive complexity. So what is that? Well, it's the ability to see the world in high definition. You're processing all the little details, the potential consequences, the possibilities that most people just miss them. This is exactly why you might play out a dozen different scenarios in your head before a big meeting. It's a superpower, really, even if it sometimes feels a bit like indecisiveness to the people around you. Okay, here's another habit that might look a little odd from the outside. People with this thinking style, they often talk to themselves. And no, it's not out of strangeness. It's actually a tool for getting clarity. The science behind this is pretty cool, actually. It's called verbal reasoning. By turning all those abstract thoughts swirling around in your head into structured words, you're basically organizing your ideas in real time. It's an incredibly efficient way to solve problems and just stay focused. And this thinking style comes with other hallmarks, too. You've got that intellectual hunger, right? Where you dive super deep into a new topic for a few weeks, become obsessed, and then you move on. Then there's the constant questioning of why. It's not about being rebellious, it's about trying to find better, more logical ways of doing things. And of course, the classic one. You just can't stand small talk because your brain is totally wired for depth, not all that surface-level chatter. Now, all this intense mental processing, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It actually needs a very specific environment to function at its best. And that brings us perfectly to our next section, the power of solitude. You see, for the complex mind, being alone isn't a sign of being antisocial at all. It's a flat-out necessity. Socializing, and especially small talk, can be just so draining. Solitude is where you go to recharge your mental batteries. It's giving your brain that quiet space it absolutely needs to connect all those dots without any interruptions. And I just love this quote because it captures the purpose so perfectly. It says, they're not avoiding people. They're entering a deeper thinking state that only happens when their mind has space to wander. It's not about escaping other people. It's about entering a whole different state of mind. And it's in that quiet space, that's where the best ideas, the best solutions, and the deepest connections are really made. Okay, so to really truly understand this complex cognitive style, it helps to see what it's not. So let's explore a totally contrasting approach. Think of it as a tale of two minds, the complex mind versus the rigid mind. So the foundation for a more rigid mindset often comes down to this really well-known cognitive bias, the Dunning-Kruger effect. What's that? Well, in short, it's when a person just doesn't know enough to even realize how much they don't know. And that lack of self-awareness is the absolute crucial difference here. And this whole contrast really boils down to one key thing: intellectual humility. The complex mind is keenly aware of what it doesn't know. And that awareness, that's the fuel for learning. On the flip side, a more rigid thinking style operates with this sort of overconfidence that comes from being completely blind to its own knowledge gaps. And this leads directly into curiosity, doesn't it? For the complex thinker, learning is exciting. It's like an adventure. They have this genuine intellectual hunger. But for a more rigid thinker, new information can actually feel like a threat to their worldview. So what do? They avoid asking why and just stick to what they think they already know. And finally, you can really see the difference in how they view the world itself. The complex mind, it embraces nuance. It gets that reality is rarely simple. The rigid mind, on the other hand, defaults to this black and white thinking. Something is either 100% right or 100% wrong. There's just no room for complexity, no room for other perspectives. So where does that leave us? What do we do with all this information? Well, that brings us to our final and maybe most important section, embracing your own mental blueprint. Now, the most important takeaway here is this. This is not about judging one style as good and the other as bad. That's not the point at all. It's better to think of them as two ends of a spectrum. I mean, let's be real, we all have our moments of rigidness and our moments of complexity. These are just different blueprints for how a mind processes reality. And the goal isn't to try and change your blueprint, it's to understand it. Because when you understand your dominant blueprint, it gives you a whole new language for your own experiences. Suddenly it explains why you might feel things so intensely, why you crave those deep conversations over surface-level chat, and yeah, why you might so often feel misunderstood by other people. It even reframes that nagging self-criticism. It's not a flaw, it's just a side effect of the very self-awareness that's driving your growth. So, in the end, all these habits, this preference for solitude, this endless curiosity, all of it, they're all telling a story. They're telling the story of how your mind works. So the only real question left is, are you listening?